In this moment, Matt Murdock has no clue what he just walked into. This isn't any regular fist fight. This is one of the most brilliantly directed fights in the history of cinema. There's so many layers to unpack here, and we'll be peeling them back one by one to see the true genius of the fight. The dichotomy of the two fighting styles can be picked up by the viewer without a single word spoken. Daredevil's dominance up close is highlighted through his signature one-shot action sequences. No cuts, just one uninterrupted flow of movement. A visceral display of power. Every punch, every kick, every flip is an extension of his heightened senses, turning combat into something almost poetic. Bullseye, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. His style is chaotic but precise, reinforced through quick cuts and sharp edits, visually communicating just how dangerous he is at a distance. He can turn anything into a deadly projectile. A paperclip, a pencil, a pair of scissors. The camera treats him like a boss in a video game, always looming in the background, forcing Daredevil to navigate the office space like a labyrinth, desperately using all of his senses, including taste. Turning the fight into a puzzle he has to solve. But let's keep peeling back the layers. The two fighting styles are also symbolically inverse of each other's own interpersonal battles. Bullseye is a man who can't connect with others. His relationships are fraught with obsession. His infatuation with Julie, a potential love interest, was toxic for both parties.
Julie, you're misreading this. Let me pay for dinner, we'll go for a walk in the park, I'll explain. You're very special to me.
He said, let go.
Since everyone closest to him ends up dead or worse, his struggle isn't just about combat, it's about his desperate failing attempts to belong into society. He is a guy who desperately tries to get close to people, which in turn brings him pain and anguish. Daredevil, on the other hand, is the opposite. He has people who care about him, but he constantly pushes them away. Matt seeks guidance from others to help him understand his violent tendencies, much like Bullseye, specifically in his priest and worship of the Lord. Matt rejects closeness, turning away from those who could help him, like Foggy, Karen, and even his priest. His mentor Stick trained him to hone his abilities and became the only person who cared about him at the time, yet still abandoned him when he refused to kill and saw his inherent goodness.
Maybe you should have stuck around and finished training me yourself.
I needed a soldier. You wanted a father.
Matt's defining struggle is that he isolates himself far away from everyone for what he thinks is the greater good of crime fighting. Being far away hurts him, not only physically, but emotionally. The fact that the two warriors' fighting styles are inversely effective against each other's character arcs is sheer genius. Pure genius. But let's unpack another layer. The tension in this fight isn't just visual, it's auditory. The score subtly manipulates our emotions, priming us to feel the dread that Bullseye's presence brings. Daredevil's moments of dominance are accompanied by chaotic percussive energy, tremolo strings, rapid pizzicatos, deep drum beats. They all emphasize his raw power and unrelenting movement. Bullseye's presence, however, is heralded by something more eerie. Sharp, piercing string notes cut through the air whenever he gains control. And then there's the silence, those brief, unsettling pauses where the sound vanishes completely, creating a sense of terrifying stillness, like a predator locking onto its prey, weaponizing the very air around him. The music meticulously foreshadows the audience's anxious feelings. Listen closely here. The moment Matt pushes Bullseye away with a mighty left hook, a cymbal crash briefly halts the entire orchestra. A small, subtle touch, yet it tells us everything. But this isn't the last time we hear that cymbal. As the fight progresses and transitions into its second act, that same cymbal crash repeats itself, signaling a shift in momentum. The sound design itself tells us that Daredevil's brief advantage state is gone, and the fight has entered its most dangerous phase. Let's peel even further back. Bullseye recontextualizes the office space into his own personal kill zone. The New York Bulletin, once a symbol of truth and security, is now a battlefield. This setting isn't just random, it's symbolic. This newspaper has been a force for good, a place where problems are solved with words, with journalism. The institutions of truth is crumbling under the weight of fear and violence. And if that sounds eerily familiar, it's because it is. This sequence carries echoes of real-world events. mirroring real-life attacks on journalists, such as the Capitol Gazette shooting in 2018. Whether consciously or not, this parallel makes this scene even more unsettling. Bullseye, at this point, has accepted what he is. He no longer struggles with his sense of self. He has embraced his nature, his need to kill.
That's what I want for you. Someone to accept you without shame. I've sent you a gift, an opportunity to become your true self.
Daredevil, on the other hand, is still in turmoil. He doesn't know what he believes anymore. God, justice, violence, his entire moral framework is in disarray. And because it is, he is losing the fight. Not just in a physical sense, but thematically. He's still searching, still questioning, still denying his true self. Potentially, this uncertainty in his opponent alludes to being the final needle pusher for Bullseye. As the battle progresses, we enter the final phase of the Hegelian dialectic. Act 1, Daredevil dominates in close combat. Act 2, Bullseye adapts and takes control at further range. Act 3, the fight will end with a combination and adaptation of the two. Let's peel back another layer. The brilliance of this fight's direction lies in how the audience is shown the rules of engagement. The fight isn't just about who hits harder, it becomes a game of strategy. How can Daredevil bridge the gap and land that decisive blow? This question grips the audience, keeping them engaged as Matt struggles to break through Bullseye's relentless defense. He uses deception, distraction, trickery, anything to close the gap. And yet, just as he finally gets within striking range, Bullseye finds one last projectile, a single lethal shot, and just like that, the fight is over. While the winner was crowned, there's still many layers to peel back. Despite their violent tendencies, both Matt and Bullseye tried to justify their violent actions and find a place in society. Matt chose vigilantism, channeling his violence into what he believed was justice, while Bullseye sought approval from figures he believed could validate his actions. Bullseye, wearing the Daredevil suit, represents what Matt could become if he fully embraced the darkness inside of him. Matt, reverting to his black rags, visually signifies his own crisis of faith. He is lost, he is regressing, he is fighting the very idea of himself. What is it that separates them, you may ask? Well, empathy. Daredevil fights because he cares, because his faith, his priests, his upbringings have given him a moral compass. No matter how much he struggles with it, Bullseye fights because he has lost all of that. He had guiding figures, people who could have helped him, and one by one he killed them all. His coach, Julie, his therapist. Every North Star he has ever had has ended in tragedy, each one pushing him further into nihilistic rage, leaving Fisk as his final ultimate guiding figure. While Matt may have lost the initial fight, the thematic core in which this fight initiated is the backbone of the final battle between Matt, Bullseye, and Fisk. Bullseye has found a new North Star, Fisk. Bullseye once again trusted another individual because he longs for companionship. Yet this is his fatal mistake. Every time Bullseye has let someone near him, he gets hurt. Unfortunately, this time he ran out of luck as he breaks physically, emotionally, completely. And Daredevil, despite everything, despite his struggles, he makes a different choice. He doesn't kill. He wins not just in the physical battle, but in the ideological battle. While Bullseye had accepted his darkest instincts, he was bested by his insecurities of intimacy and personal connection, embodied by his relationship with Fisk. Meanwhile, Matt rediscovered his moral compass at the most crucial moment, realizing that his true strength lays in resisting the urge to kill, in holding on to the empathy that separated him from monsters like Fisk and Bullseye. He rediscovers who he is and only got this far into his goals of taking down Fisk and Bullseye by entrusting in a team, and that team are the people he loved and held nearest to him. What separates a hero from a villain? A mask, a choice, or perhaps something deeper? The irony is that the Daredevil with the best eyes may have won his battle initially, but when the Daredevil with eyes, which can't see, saw who he truly was, he won the war. And in a world of noise, dialogue, and overblown expensive CGI fights, Daredevil reminded us that silence can tell the loudest stories.